Hello and welcome, and today we're going to get started on fixing a MacBook Air that has no green light, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to fix the DC-in board if you are incredibly cheap and you don't want to spend $15 to $25 for a new one, or maybe you just don't want to wait for it to show up, but you have a soldering iron and a wire. Here I'm going to show you how it is you can fix the DC-in board by itself. Before we get started on that, I just want to congratulate the winner of our last giveaway here. So that is Tony from Cocoa, Florida. You have won the Hikvision NVR over here. So this is going to be this lovely, beautiful, mint condition Hikvision 16-channel NVR. It has 8 PoE ports, and you can connect another 8 cameras with a PoE switch. You win. So I'm going to be resetting all my information out of this so that I could send it to you. And now, today we're going to be announcing a second giveaway that you could enter for free, which is for this Linksys Cisco SGE 2000P switch that I'm giving away. It has 1 or 2 ports that don't work, and which I forget, so that is, yeah, that's your adventure figuring out that one. So this is a 24-port gigabit PoE switch, so these ports are all gigabit. It's not like that shit where some of them are, most of them are only 100 megabit, and then you have only like 2 gigabit ports. So this has 24 gigabit ports. SGE 2000P, you can kind of get an idea what it looks like up front over here, and I'm going to be giving this away. Now, to enter the chance to win this thing, all you have to do is click the link that you see below in the description and check out. So I have your information. So this way, whoever winds up winning, when you do win, I just have to click ship in my system once I've chosen the random person. So this over here you can see is the website, store.rossmanngroup.com/cisco-poe-switch-giveaway.html. I will have to change that to make it in stock since it says out of stock right now. Go figure, I fucked that up before I started the stream. So might as well do that really quick. Make it enabled. And once you check out, which is completely free, you'll be able to enter the giveaway. And next week, I'll be announcing the winner of the giveaway on stream. There we go, back in stock. So, all right. There. All right. So let's get started with our board today. So as you can see, this is an 820-00165. Now I've plugged in the charger. Let me just show you on here. So that's the charger, and it's plugged in, but you have no light. But the fan is spinning. You can see that there is a spinning fan, so the board does have some capability to work. It just doesn't have capability for a green light. So the first thing we're going to go over here is what it is that causes you to have a green light on some of the older MacBook motherboards. And then we're going to go over that on this one. So let's just swap over here. Get my PDF reader above everything else. Bam. So the reason we're going over this on the old machine is because the circuit that allows the charger to talk to the computer that gets you the green light is on the schematic for the older boards, but not on the newer ones. So when you get a schematic or a board view, they're giving you the schematic and the board view for the motherboard by itself, not its surrounding peripherals like the I/O board or the DC-in board. So we don't have a schematic for this DC-in board, but we can kind of assess what's going on by looking at this over here. So this is what's called the one-wire circuit. This is the jack that the charger is going to plug into. So you got the 18 volts. You've heard this a million times, haven't you? Yeah, I'm fixing a DC-in board. What? It's either this or I have to get up and get a new one. I don't know anymore. I need to save my cardio for running so I can not fall behind 2 miles in a race with you again. Anyway, so we have 18 volts on the DC-in. That's 18 volts to power the machine. We have ground. And then we have adapter sense. So what's going to be responsible for allowing the charger to detect the SMC to detect the charger, and for it to give you a green light? Adapter sense, of course. What's going to allow it to sense the adapter? So the light turns green when it senses a computer. There's a line over here called sense. That's going to be what it is. Do you have to live in the U.S. to enter the giveaway? Absolutely. There's no way in hell I'm doing free international shipping. There are some things that you just shouldn't say on a live stream, Jason. I'm gonna have to delete that later. That's gonna come back to get you in court. Anyway. So adapter sense is going to go to this chip called U6900. Now the reason U6900 is here is so that some drunken idiot that is plugging in the MagSafe all discombobulated doesn't wind up sending the 18 volts directly to the SMC. So adapter sense is going to talk to sys1 wire, and sys1, when I say the adapter talks to the SMC, it happens on the sys1 wire line. So you'll see that if I search for sys1 wire goes to U4900. U4900 is the system management controller chip. That's the chip that controls a lot of different functions on the board. So the charger adapter sense line is coming from this charge port, is going to talk to sys1 wire. But that's a 3-volt line, and you don't want that 3-volt line getting raped by this 18-volt line up here. So this chip is going to sit as a barrier to make sure that if 3 volts, talk to SMC. If 18 volts, fuck off, don't talk to my SMC. So this chip is not going to turn on unless, this chip is not going to turn on unless it gets 3.3 volts at its VCC pin. For all these chipsets, you'll see at the top is where the power is going to be present for it to turn on. So it's always going to be called VDD, VIN, VCC, something like that. So over here you have VDD, that's the power it needs to turn on. Over here you have VIN on the top, power it needs to turn on. Over here you have VCC on the top, power it needs to turn on. So VCC, VDD, VIN, hopefully you're getting the idea that there is a pattern here. And yeah, so this chip is going to get its 3.3 volts it needs to turn on from U6901. Now, U6901 itself needs PP3V42 in order to turn on. This is a logic gate. So this logic gate is going to allow SMC, BC, this logic gate is going to allow PP3V42 to flow through output if SMC, BC, ACOK is present on input. So if you have A and B, you get Y. Now, this logic gate is going to work if PP3V42 is present, and it will be present on pin 5. Now, if we were to go over to a board view of that same motherboard, the 820, I'm using, I think, the 2915 here, 820-2915. This is one of the worst boards Apple ever made. We would see that that is present, U6901, and right over here, and you can see that U6900 is right next to it. So that's going to be pin 5 is PP3V42. And I'll just show you what that little thing looks like. Assuming I have a board that still has it. All right, so if we were to look, you'll see right over here. So this is going to be PP3V42, and then it's going to shoot that out on pin 4. We accept you pay up front, and that's it. Fuck POs for class. Yeah, fuck that. No. Yeah, no POs. Suck it. Anyway, so this, somebody. Okay, so back to what we're doing here. So this is going to send voltage to this. Now, let's see if our DC-in board has anything that looks somewhat familiar to that. Okay, so back to this. Hello world, says Mads Larson. Thank you for the 50 DKK. Okay, so do these look familiar to you? Do these two ICs down here look? Would you please share your LCD suppliers? You know, I like you, I really do, but $5. I appreciate it, but I can't do that for $5. Here's what happened. So my LCD suppliers don't actually have enough LCDs for me. So if I contact them and I say I need 50 of this, they send me 3. Seriously. So if I tell you who they are, when I contact them saying I need 50, they're not even going to have 3. They're going to have 0. And I like you. I genuinely appreciate the $5. Thank you. But no, sorry. Continuing. So here you'll see that we have U6901. And under it you have U6900. Now, if we were to look back on this board view here, you'll see that you have PP3, the bottom left leg. This should cover my AdSense for the next few years. Thank you to DEC Tech. I appreciate it. So over here, you have the bottom left leg on the side that is 2 is going to be PP3V42, right? So that it needs to get power at this pin in order to turn on and work. So let's see where that is on this DC-in board. Now keep in mind, I don't have a schematic for this DC-in board. I'm just guessing based on the fact that these chips look the same that that's what this is. And you can see it leads back to this over here. So let's just clean it off with a little bit of alcohol and an anti-static ESD wiper from Sparkle at Amazon. So now we are going to see what we can do with this little path over here. So as you can see, it's broken off. It doesn't look like pins are missing on the connector, although I could have missed it, but it is very clear that that path is broken. You're streaming on Twitch as well? No, because Twitch errors out all the time, so I can't use it anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of gentle, kind scraping with a micro pencil tip. Assuming I can find a micro pencil tip. Or I could just steal Paul's and he'll never know. Unless he's in chat. In which case he will. Here, micro pencil. Oh, I don't see a micro pencil there. Step away from I had 2 micro pencils and now I has 1 micro pencil. I has no micro pencil. Wait a second. Okay, fuck it. I'll just use a regular soldering iron. All right. Jason's looking at me like he's going to stab me with the pencil if I take his. Okay, so let's get started with my standard iron and do a little scrapey. What is my temperature doing set to 640? Oh, I was trying to fix something yesterday that I destroyed that was the regular board, not a MacBook or a computer or anything. It's one of my first soldering jobs. Prior to the stuff I did when I was really young. Oh, what a butchery. Have you ever gone and looked at stuff you did when you were like 16 and just wanted to punch yourself in the face for how bad your work was? Because that's how I felt for most of yesterday. Tony Tone says this hello cost me $5. Hello to Tony Tone. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and scrape a little bit to get rid of this covering. So you can see that there's this insulation-like stuff that is covering the trace, and I'm going to scrape it off so it's no longer present, so that I can get to the copper, which will actually conduct electricity. And then I'm going to solder directly to that copper. Now, after that's done, I'm going to take up my little jumper wire. And now the thing is, this jumper wire is enameled. I have this in the links below. You can also find it on the website that you see in the link below. You can find all the stuff there. Now I'm going to do this. The problem is that solder is going to be kind of funky because it doesn't have any flux on it. I swear you make more money than cam girls. You know, it's funny because I used to advertise on Backpage, and then I was wondering why the hell are they Bitcoin only? This is so annoying. And apparently it's because cam and ors and whatnot were using it, and they were trying to get them to stop using it. Really worked, because now they just use Bitcoin. And I don't advertise on Backpage anymore for repair services. So. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they make more than I do off of streaming. So I'm going to try to put this down there and solder it on with my unsteady hands. I'm being stubborn and not using a set of tweezers when I should be. There we go. And then we go over here and we're going to scrape a little bit. Now I added some flux, so I should be able to scrape and use the little bit of solder that's left on the tip of my iron. Now, in order to finish the connect, I can't really cut a wire that's the exact size that I want it to be. That's not happening. You know, trying to cut a wire and saying be exactly this length of that, just no. I mean, you could say use a caliper and blah blah blah, but it's not happening. What you want to do is you're gonna, after you attach the wire to the point, just move it back and forth like a paperclip. Now, just make sure that the trace is not moving with it. You want to make sure that once your wire is where you want it to be, you want to kind of bend it so that you're moving it around at the joint instead of having it like this and then moving it back and forth where you're moving around the trace. So let's say that my arm, bad analogy, but let's say my arm is the trace, and let's say this is the excess wire. You want to kind of have it bent upwards and then move it back like this so that the trace is not moving back and forth as well. So let's take a look over here. So when I'm scraping this, I'm looking at this closely. I don't want this trace to be moving, nor do I want this wire to be moving, because I don't want any of this to break. So I kind of want to make it up at a right angle and then move it back and forth so that I'm not weakening the wire itself. So now we're going to see if I plug this in, if I get a green light, and if this is fixed. So if this works, this would be how it is. You can avoid the insanity of having to get up and get a new DC-in board. And we're just going to turn off my light, and as you can see, I do have a light on my charger, which means it's lit. So that is how you fix a MacBook Air DC-in board without having to get another one, just in case you're down to the last one at your shop. Now, again, this is not exactly something that I would suggest doing if you don't know enough to know if your audio circuit is damaged as well. I wouldn't do this because your audio circuit is on the DC-in board, but it's something that you can do. So I'm just going to go over the rest of this thing now since it looks a little bit nasty. Wouldn't want to give it back to somebody looking all nasty. So we've got the LCD connector area over here. This looks like dog shit. Bad example. Is flux conductive? This flux is not conductive. I'm sure they make flux that may be somewhat conductive, but I don't use any of that stuff. That would be dangerous since I love flux so much. Lewis, why are you back to using the Weller? Because I lost. I drew the short straw. Nobody here is going to work if I give them a Weller. After the ultrasonic cleaning, all your water indicators becoming red, so you either don't clean non-water damaged boards, or how do you handle it? I mean, I don't really care if the sticker becomes red. I'm upfront with people that I'm voiding your warranty, and that your warranty is probably voided at the point that it's dead. I mean, when you're here, you're here because your warranty is voided. There's no way around it. If somebody is in any way in warranty, if I know that Apple will fix something for cheaper than we do, by all means, I send them to Apple, and I send out those emails like at least 10 times a day. At least back when they were doing stuff like the GPU recalls, or if there's no sign whatsoever of damage and I know they're within the 1 year, I just tell them to go to Apple. But if you're here, you probably most likely have no warranty. Back to work, bye. See you later, Tony Tone. Have you seen the Venus two-faced cat? I have not seen the Venus two-faced cat. You need to do a giveaway for the Weller and just bite the bullet on another quick. Well, I'm going to get a 220 volt quick over here because Jason and I can't solder at the same time. It's kind of like being on a seesaw. Like the other day, he had every one of his things on, and I had all of my stuff on, and I noticed when he turned his on, my heat went down. So I have another 220 volt line here, another one that I brought up for the Zao mount, which I don't use anymore, so I'm just going to use all my equipment on 220. So I'm slowly replacing all of my soldering equipment with 220 volt soldering equipment. I'm also getting a new desk over here so that it doesn't shake as often, because you could probably see that it shakes constantly. Especially Jason, since he has the articulating stand. So that LCD connector's got to go. That capacitor's probably fine, but I'm still getting rid of it. That fuse, I would say, should go. That capacitor over there is eventually going to short to grounds, and they're done that. Now, one thing that you may notice here, if you're paying really good attention, is this. And I should bring this up, since this happens all the time on the 00165 board. So that is going to be required for feedback. So if we look at D7701, D7701 pin 2 is going to go back. How do you get 220 in the USA? Electrician. Electrician does that. So.
Should have told them plug two 110 volt wires together.
Or put two 110 volt wires together, which is probably how that line is. I don't even want to look in the wall and see. It'll just scare me. Anyway, so over here, this is backlight output, and for backlight output to work, the chip that's creating backlight needs to be able to see the backlight output. It's not. Think of it like driving a car. If you're driving a car and you can't see out the window, you're going to stop driving because you may hit something. So U7701, which is the backlight driver, is not going to drive the backlight if it can't see what it's producing, because if it wants to know, am I producing 25 volts, 35 volts, 90 volts, 100 volts, it doesn't want to go insane and produce a voltage that's going to blow everything up. So what the backlight driver does is it wants to see backlight output, and once it sees the backlight output as a normal voltage, then it'll keep boosting, but it's not going to work if it can't see what it's producing. So if we look over here, XW7720 is a line where this is going from one side of the board to the other. Is it the same guy that does the AC work? We're not getting into the lovely motley crew of contractors I have right now. Paul says I have 2 more of those DC-in boards broken and a bin on my desk if you want to fix some more. It's a great idea. Mm-hmm. So, this is going to be the point at which the diode talks to the other side of the board. And this can corrode very easily because there's a probe point there and it's not covered with the same trace material that Apple uses for the rest of the same PCB coating material. And since it's by the edge, it's very easy for this point to break. So very often, you can fix backlight without even taking the board out if this is your problem by running a wire between here and there. Brand, is that TV? That's a Seiki. Is it worth getting checked if I have an unsteady hand and tremors in them? If you value your life and there's a problem with your health, I think going to the doctor is always a good thing to do. And if you don't value your life, then it may be good to go to a therapist or figure out why that is. Just some thoughts there. That cap looks really sad. That's a happy cap. Yeah. All right, so now that this may have had a working backlight, but over time that point could have broken off, so I'm glad I covered it up. Glad I did that. So now next up is going to be seeing if we have pads under here. And it looks like most likely no pads. Lame. Don't buy a Siki. At a random occasion, this TV will go from 4K to 1920 by 1200, and it's not the graphics card or the computer or the cable, because with any other monitor it doesn't do that. But it frequently happens with this POS, and you have to turn it on and off again. I hate having to turn it on and off again. Blech. Puh. So, I'm going to add some solder here, and then we're going to wick it away. I'm going to be selling wick soon, by the way. I can't wait. I'm going to be selling Jessa Jones's favorite brand of desoldering wick that iPad Rehab recommends for all iPhone board repair. For wicking under TriStar, or wicking under the Touch IC, or wicking under... It's Jessa's favorite brand. What's up, Tarman? Okay. Those pads are great. Again. So now we can take some parts from a donor. What's the slimy stuff he puts there? That is flux. Has Apple harassed you with legal threats since you exposed their BS policies? All I had was that call last year where they were really pushing for me to take down some of the videos that I've done. And that wasn't happening, so... And my videos are still here, so... I think that really had to do with timing. So right after they called... Not they, it wasn't even Apple. It would have been different if it was Apple. It was Kilpatrick and Townsend. Because like when you want to open up a friendly dialogue with somebody, you typically don't do that with a $1,200 an hour law firm that is within blocks of the person you're calling's office. But anyway... I think that there was a timing element there, since right after that happened, the European Union said that they owed $15 billion in back taxes for Ireland. So that was probably good for me, since I imagine that is a greater priority for Apple to spend their time on than my nonsense. Okay, just tin the pads, put some stuff on there. Make sure you order bent nozzles for Jessa from Rossman's Fly. Somebody actually ordered bent nozzles to Jessa from my store. Wow. Don't she get pissed at you for what you say about here? And does she say stuff like that about you? I don't think Jessa gets mad at me for saying that wick is amazing. Because it is. I love... Who doesn't love desoldering wick? Come on now. Okay. Let me get myself a fuse and the donor board to steal some components off of. Okay, let's start with the fuse. Are you using RMA223 or 559? I'm using NC559 V2TF. There should be a link below. It's my favorite. Okay, just put some flux around the fuse there. Hey, wait for my really old, crappy weller to heat up for a moment. How many donor boards do you own? I would say probably 100 of them. Spends a good 2,000 or 3,000 on donor boards over the past few years. No, for the person who asked, nobody is using lead solder for manufacturing nowadays that I know of. You're not going to find that anywhere. I do component level repair on automotive ECUs. In the UK, your overuse of flux has been inspiring and very helpful. Never underestimate the power of flux. Indeed, my friend, indeed. There is no such thing as too much flux. Damn, I got up and I forgot to get a connector. Oh. I just saw Jessa fix something where she should have wicked to make sure that button was flat on the board, but she made a point not to, says Paul. Yeah, sometimes Jessa can be stubborn when it comes to wicking. We have nothing but leaded solder at local hackerspace. Yeah, people who are going to build stuff for themselves use leaded because it's easy. But I mean, when you're talking about new MacBooks or the guy, I think that was what the guy was referring to. Mass manufacturing, you're not going to see leaded solder used there at all. Like, Sony is not going to manufacture their TVs with leaded solder. Toshiba is not going to manufacture SSDs with leaded solder or anything like that. So in the enthusiast community, by all means, there will be leaded solder, but not in real manufactured products. How often do you get non-alpha products in for repair? Almost never, since I usually decline them. The problem is I have to be able to offer somebody an estimate within usually a day, and there are a lot of people that want the estimate while they wait. So, I mean, half of the people we have to talk down from wanting an estimate while they're in the store. There's really no way that I can provide estimates on thousands of different devices when I have to order parts for them for free within minutes or a day or so. And what I realize is that if I can't offer that level of service, it will lead to angry people and raging, and so I don't even bother trying to anymore. I essentially caved. So I service the things that I can get done quickly, efficiently. So by sticking to one thing, it's made life very easy. Very simple. No fuss, no muss. The quality of reputation it's sad the way this works, but it really does depend a lot on... It really does depend a good amount on what you take in. Because, I mean, Jessa, she solders better than I do. She's a PhD. I'm a friggin' high school flunk out, kind of. I passed my chemistry regents by cheating. Still got a 58. And yet I have better reviews than Jessa. Why is that? Is it that I'm smarter and better at soldering? Fuck no. It's that Jesset takes on all the stuff that I say no to because I know that people are going to rage. You know, like do DIY screw-ups, for example. Like I typically don't take that on because somebody who is tried DIY and failed is going to be angry. Before they even show up, they're going to be really pissed off because they tried to do something and failed, so they're already in a bad mood. Secondly, they clearly don't know how to put the device together or back together or take it apart. If they did, they wouldn't be here. So by fixing the board by itself and then giving them the device back, I'm trusting them to do something that they've already proven to me that they're unable to do. And you combine that with the fact that they're already raging, and you will get somebody who's quite pissed off as a customer. Now, if you look at something like Jess's iPad Rehab's Yelp, you'll see that most of her one-star reviews are from people where she did her job totally fine, but, like, fucking idiot that can't put back together an iPad. Now it's her problem, which is sad. Really is. Makes me sad. If you're a business that's received good service from Jessa, you should go on to Yelp and leave her a good review. And I know some of you are probably watching. Or like the Touch IC shit. I don't fuck with any of that. If you've dropped your phone enough times that the Touch IC has come off of the board, chances are, hey, you probably fucked up something else too. And then there's the having a warranty, all that other stuff. So Jess has negative reviews for Touch IC. She's probably done thousands of that job by now, like literally thousands of them, and they all went fine. Like 1 or 2 or 4 didn't go fine because it's a fucking annoying repair to do. There's a lot of issue. iPhones are just, in my opinion, they're just a different level of shitty than, let's say, a MacBook. Like a MacBook keyboard will stop working if you spill something on it. An iPhone 6 Plus will stop typing if it just fucking exists. So, so they're different levels of shitty. So she'll have reviews that are bad because something else screwed up on the phone or they weren't able to fix it. And I don't have those because I tell people, sorry, can't help you, go to Jessa, So there's a lot that I don't do because I probably can't do it to the standard that customers would expect at the price that they're willing to pay. And if that's the case, I say no. And there is stuff that I probably would want to do, which just, would want to mess with, but I can't deal with the whole, it's one thing if somebody's calling every day for something that I advertise that I do, that I can get parts for, but I can't deal with, the calling every 6 hours for something that I'm doing as a one-time specialty repair. I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question. This is the wrong soldering tip for this, by the way. Paul said, we just fixed the control board for an 80s Casio MIDI guitar simply because the customer was friendly and respectful and willing to wait and pay, and that board was leaded solder. Yeah, the whole respectful and patient thing goes a long way. And I let a lot of customers in that have these really annoying, irritated attitudes because I understand that they need their stuff back immediately. They're pissed off. They didn't plan on it breaking, blah, blah, blah. I get it. And there's also money in them. But for, the one-time things that we don't even work on, I just, if somebody shows up and they're already bitching, you just got to go. That's it. Send to Jessa. Send to Jessa. I sent all my error 4013s to Jessa. That jumper is shitty. I really should just look for my micro pencil. If I was smart, I would grab my micro pencil. But I gotta find it. And I'm already here, so I suppose. Stop streaming on Twitch. Yeah, I was tired of getting authentication errors and When I try streaming to Twitch, it gives some authentication error. Try again. What's the most amazing gift you've received for your birthday? Well, that's not something I'm going to say on stream. It did end with me, somebody saying happy birthday. Why am I attaching to the capacitor when I can just attach up here? What am I, retarded? I am being an idiot right now. What the fuck? How long has it been since you've done this, dumbass? Just do this. I am being an idiot. Jesus Christ. Okay, so we're just gonna scrape away this over here, so we don't have to run this very long bodge wire. Okay. Hey, let's see. Add some flux. I feel silly doing this with this big iron. Friggin' 50 gauge wire that I'm touching with a T15 tip. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Why wouldn't they use leaded solder? Too expensive? Because they don't want to have lead in electronics. It's like getting no lead paint, no lead in electronics, all that good stuff. Environment. Caring about the environment. Do you care about the environment? Don't you care about the environment? Oh, God. So this is my LED driver. Pretty, isn't it? Look, it... Oh. Ugh. Gross. So it looks like I'm missing a ball. Stop picking your lips. Yes, you heard me. Do you repair using lead-free solder? No comment. Leaded for me. I don't hate my life that much. So I use leaded solder. If I hated myself If I were self-loathing, if I read enough Tumblr to hate myself for who I am, then I would. But I am a privileged person. I use leaded solder. That's the most important privilege there is. Of all the privileges that I have, my greatest privilege is that I get to use leaded solder. It beats white privilege, male privilege, patriarchal privilege. Nah, those Adam, nah. Leaded solder privilege, that's a fucking privilege. It was working, why not just throw it in the ultrasonic? What, do you think I'm going to give this back to a customer? What is this? Look at this. Would you give this back to a customer? What is wrong with this picture? Do you see something here that is unacceptable to you? Perhaps in the the upper left. I'm not going to give that back to a customer. What do you take me for? So. Look, the pad is friggin' missing. Okay, maybe not missing, but... Okay, now it's missing. So if it wasn't missing before, I just definitely made it missing now. I have an 820-2530 board, green light, nothing else. Yep, that sure does sound like a dead board. Unless you haven't tried to turn it on properly. You use lead solder, but you're a fucking white male. Says fire spawn L1 with autistic screeching intensifying. Indeed. Looks like my last TriStar repair. Ouch. How often do you use your micro soldering pencil? I use it very often when I can find it, but it's not on my station right now, so I don't know where the... But it's only one ball. How many does it need? It needs every ball. Wick is another one of my privileges. Goot wick. How does Jessa live without Goot wick? I can't believe Jessa doesn't wick. See, this is a privilege. And this is a privilege that I'm happy to have. And you could also see up here that this pad over here is kind of garbage as well. That pad looks like shit. So if we look on the screen, it looks like that is the pad for switching. LCD backlight boost, pin 6-7. That is over here. LCD backlight boost, yeah. So that's where the switching is going to occur at the coil. So that's important. We need both of those to be connected. So I'm going to clean that off a little. Let's just assess what our damage is here before we go further. Apple Tech, you should, yeah. That's a great question for a forum. I'm trying to fix my board right now. Anyway, so what I'm going to do over here, this actually looks like it's savable. Can't wait tomorrow. I'm going to have the more steady table here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape this a little bit. And if possible, put a wire there. What is the name of this job? I call myself a janitor. Usually I introduce myself to people as a janitor. All right, so I got some solder over there. I'm just gonna I'm gonna tin all my pads. Need to have some tinning if I plan to be winning. We need to win. So I'm going to have to run a wire from there to there, and I'm also going to make sure that this pad is a little bit bigger by putting a wire there. And then I'm going to pray that none of those wires move when I solder on a new LED driver. That would truly be a miracle. I fix bathroom doors. Yes, I do. How do women react to you introducing yourself as a janitor when on a date? I find that this is useful. So, for example, what I used to do is when people would ask me questions, when they would say, "Where do you work?" I would say, let's say, "I'm a janitor at a store." I don't have to tell them that I own the store or that I employ 5 people at the store. I'm a janitor at a store. Where do you live? I live in a studio apartment in Bed-Stuy. Bed-Stuy is a neighborhood that I guess it's getting much nicer now, but, well, not very nice, but getting nicer. But like when I moved in there about 10 years ago, it was a constant shooting after shooting after shooting. Now, they don't have to know that I have the one building where the apartment has 25-foot ceilings and nice brick everywhere and is beautiful. They don't have to know that. I just say I live in a studio in Bed-Stuy. What do you do? I'm a janitor at a store. And what you can tell very quickly is whether the person you're with is a gold digger by how they react to these statements. At least that's been my experience. So when I say these things and I see that there's this like cringe, then I know, just fuck off. This is not. We're not gonna get along. But then when they're like, okay, so tell me what you do. Tell me what it's about, when somebody would come to my apartment after I said that, then they get to figure out that I have an apartment that looks like a palace on the inside and like 70 foot long and beautiful stereo, and I just fucked up that jumper. Or that I own the store. But let them figure that out if they were willing to stick around in the beginning when they thought that I was an actual career mop cleaning janitor. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but My mother and my grandma always used to beat on people in my family for they always used to have those looks, and they'd always be kind of making comments about people based on salary. And I understand that to some extent your salary is, and I know people are going to fucking scream and rage at this, but it is in some ways linked to your, how do I put this? Like your level, like how much you want to work, or your level of satisfaction with where you are and things like that. But I don't want to meet somebody like some of those people in my family that would beat you down because of where you are in life if you're trying to do better. So if you make $200 a month in the United States, you make $400 a month in the U.S., and you're able-bodied, and you have no intention to try to do better, and you just go home and play Street Fighter and Zanoni all day, I get it. But if you're genuinely trying to really trying to improve yourself and do better and, go somewhere, and you're with somebody that just doesn't want to be with you during that stage of your life and just laughs at you and looks down on you because of it, you really don't fucking need people like that in your life. So I kind of try to keep those people away through language. And I'm not really lying. I mean, I say on all these streams, what do you do? I'm a janitor. Like, what does this look like to you, Hey, spill in aisle 5, or, puked solder ball under LP8550 or U7701. It's the same thing to me, really. This is definitely more janitorial than engineering. Not going to lie about And my apartment is technically a studio. It is one room. It just so happens that my one room is longer than a lot of people's actual 3-bedroom houses. But, you know, you can assume that I live in a shitbox. And hey, if you don't want to get to know me any better, then that's all I need to know about you, girl. You don't want to get to know me better based on that. That's all I need to know about you. You just told me everything. So, and there are some women in the past who responded really poorly to that, which was good for me because, again, you know, I want to find out in the beginning if you're a miserable person. And there are some people that responded really well. Okay, now to put this LED driver on without blowing it off the board. That'll be fun. Paul says this rich here is where it would be good to have lead-free solder so that jumper stays in place longer while heating. That's correct. So here, this is the opposite. So the jumper is actually going to melt before the balls because this chip comes with lead-free balls, which are not going to melt quickly, but the jumper is soldered in with leaded solder, which is going to melt quickly. So this is probably not going to go very well. But hey, let's see. Don't you dare blow away, mofo. I also probably didn't put the air high enough on my station. My weller is sitting at 6. If someone with the knowledge of Lewis tried to make his own board, he could, right? Probably not. Probably not. Kidding? You think I could design one of these things? Hell no. Again, I know my place in the world. Okay, so now it just kind of went into place. So now that it's in place, I'm going to put my air all the way up so that I can move it around. But I didn't put my air all the way up in the beginning. So see, what I'm doing now is I want to see the entire chip move because that's how I know that the center ball is melted. So the center balls are going to be harder to melt than the outer balls because the air has to travel further to get to them. So, you know, like this area out here, obviously, that's going to be getting more heat than the area under the chip in the middle. So I want to see it move back and forth. But the thing is, before the solder becomes molten, before the solder becomes liquidous, well, while it's still solid, I can easily blow that chip away because it's not being held to anything. But once the solder becomes molten, it's kind of like quicksand. It sucks the chip in. So once the chip is kind of sucked in, but all the balls aren't fully melted, it's still sucked in enough that I can up the air on the hot air, blow it as hard as I can, and then use that to move the chip around a little bit. And that's what I just did. So now we're going to see if we get a light on this thing since we did that. And we can just take a look at my jumper to see if it moved around at all under the board. Lucy Noob, of course you could design your own board. I sincerely doubt I could design this. I know, you know, my limitations. I have no clue how to design a laptop motherboard. But then again, neither do a lot of people at Apple. So hey, there's that. I admit my limitations. It's always good to say what you don't know, because if you say you don't know it, then you have a chance to learn it. If you never say I don't know, then you never have a chance to learn. And you never have a chance to learn. So this is what my ball looks like under there. Take a look at my balls. Look at my balls. Look at my balls. Don't pick your lip while you're looking at my balls. For the stock images on your site, did you cover a board in green flux? That is actually a board that I fixed for Jessa 2.5 years ago, and that's not flux, that's some conformal coating stuff. We actually sell a similar conformal coating now, which is on the homepage of the site for under $10. You don't know how salaries work outside US if you say that. That is precisely why I said in the US. So you're welcome to take what I say completely out of context, which is really just dumb. Incredibly dumb. Like beyond dumb. Anyway, so let's see. Jess is live and Lewis doesn't know it. I know it. I commented. I took Lewis's comment on a video of fake friends and family video. I moved cities and I feel so much better now. Well, I'm glad that worked out for you. It's off-center. Well, of course it is. Stop spamming your damn question. I told you to find a forum. Now go away. Ah. Awesome. Andrew already got rid of you. Beautiful. Joy. You go work to Apple for Apple if they offered you a job. Depends on what the job is, you know? Firstly, are we going to still have a company culture of treating repair like this thing that needs to be banned? That's not something I could really be a part of, you know? Would things change? What would my job be? I don't really think I'm qualified to work at Apple. Like, I genuinely don't know what I would do. 'Cause people have asked me, but, I mean, really, like, what the hell would I do? What the hell would I do? I have no idea what I would do at Apple. Maybe I could help them run a repair division, but, you know, all that stuff's probably outsourced in China, and I don't speak Chinese, so I'm not really sure what I would do there. Not sure it would go well. Not sure I'd have much value there. Wow, 500 viewers. Awesome. How hot is your soldering station? This is 840 Fahrenheit. This was 900 to 1,000 Fahrenheit. Okay, let's plug this thing in and see what we get, bro. Let's see if we get a backlight, bro. Damn wire. Bitch at the idiotic design choices, then fix the fuck-ups. Yeah, that's the thing. That's also a cultural thing. Like, do they even care about that stuff, you know? Do they see it as a problem that the device breaks and doesn't last? Because if they don't, then there's really no point in paying someone to do that. It's only a problem if it happens within the first year when they're forced to cover it under warranty. But after that, anything would go, really, I imagine. I've just imagined Lewis filling out Apple Janitor application. Ha! Yeah. No, with my public history, that would never happen. And that's fine. I like what I do. Got my business, I got my side business, I got my hobbies. I'm as busy as can be. Let's see. You use 6337 alloy for its lack of plasticity. I use it because it works. I'm not sure about lack of plasticity. I've never really thought about plasticity. By the way, my B&K multimeter, which has a USB connection, should be coming tomorrow. So this should be the last day that I'm using my Fluke or that other really cheap USB one that doesn't work. So I'm just going to check diode mode on the LCD. And it looks like I'm getting 0.509, which is a little low, but that could be because that backlight circuit has never passed electricity before. So I'm going to see if I get a light on the screen or if I get something that goes on fire. And I'm really hoping that I get a light in the screen rather than a fire in the screen. Although I do suppose that a fire is a form of light. So it looks like we are getting a light, but you can't see it because there's so much stuff in the office. How do I get this to show on screen? Yeah, the charger cable is just long enough to make it. So I got to turn this around. Look, it's an apple and a progress bar. See? Apple progress bar. Fixed. And we got a light in the charger. So that is how you can fix a DC-in board, and that's how we go about fixing all the other issues on that particular board. Now I might as well toss it in the ultrasonic cleaner just so that it can be nice and pretty. You could always infiltrate Apple's schematics department. Again, I don't really know what I would do there. Have you ever considered uploading all your YouTube videos to a server with public access for download? Well, there are programs that would allow you to download the YouTube video. So, you know, all those YouTube downloaders. And YouTube is already hosting it for free, so I imagine that kind of works. That's a lot of stuff to host. Pay for hosting on. Is it worth it to learn board repair now? That's a good question. So if you have a company that is already making money, what I tell people if they want to learn this or if they want to take a course or anything is I essentially require you to have a business that already does this. I think it's worth it if you have a pre-existing client base of people that you know you could make money off of. I don't think this is the best thing to get into if you're from scratch in 2017. And I could always be wrong because you could always find opportunities that I missed. Maybe you know someone that is willing to get you access to a bunch of devices that you could refurbish or a bunch of recycled things. You know, there's stuff that I could miss, that I've missed. Can you email me your Zalma profile? No. No. That's pointless for so many reasons that I can't even get into here. You have to make your own profile. If you have a pre-existing client base, sure. Or a way to, you know, really enter a market niche that's underserved, sure. But if you don't have that, then let's clean that board up. Like for me, the reason it made sense to learn this is because every single day, 5 to 10 people were bringing me drowned machines. So I thought, it would really make sense if I knew how to do this. Because in the beginning, I was ignoring them all, and then I started outsourcing them to a local company that sucked, L2. And then I started outsourcing them to a company in China that eventually became as bad as L2. And then I figured I might as well just start doing this myself. But all of the stuff made sense because I had so many people asking me to do the same thing. You know, if I had nobody asking me to do that, probably wouldn't have made sense at all. All right, let's get started on the second one. Are you being not cheap in using the ultrasound cleaner? I am using my ultrasonic cleaner. Would you ever think of selling or learning how to solder kit? There are probably other companies that do that better than I do. And I don't know that I don't consider myself an authority on soldering. I'm actually not really great at soldering. I know how to make a good joint, but I wouldn't consider myself an authority on soldering. This is the thing, I'm not the best business person, but I'm a good business person. I'm not an electronics engineer, but I can read a schematic on this stuff. I'm not, I'm not an IPC certified soldering expert, but I'm good enough to solder a jumper under a BGA. So the way that I'm successful is that I kind of combine all these things where I'm a 65 student in enough different things that I can do my job. Or even like online store, you know, I am not a fucking web designer by any means. I would give myself probably a grade 40 as a web designer. Let's see if I can get this on the screen here. Yeah, I'm not a great web designer by any means. Like this side over here, I would give myself maybe a 40 out of 100 for this fucking shit website. But you know, I just recently figured out, by the way, how to make the divs. Look at this. This took me like 6 hours on a bus to figure out how to do mobile shit so that, you know, it doesn't show up horizontally. It shows up, divs show up vertically. Like, I'm not really good. I'm probably like a 40 at web design, but I'm good enough at it, you know. You can see like hot air stations, nozzles, blah, blah. This site kind of sucks, but it's good enough. So, like, you know, I would do a how-to solely for soldering the same way I would do a how-to build an e-commerce website. Like, I think that I'm successful because I'm good enough at all these different things that I could combine them together to create something people find valuable. I can combine all those skills where I'm like a 50 or 65 student, and then when I combine them all, I wind up being ahead of somebody that's 100 in one area or 90 in one area, but like a 10 or a 20 in all the others. But I wouldn't. teach, yeah. It's better than that 4K nonsense someone was trying to hand you. Yep, definitely better than the Dembski mess. Definitely better than the Dembski mess. For those of you who are not sure, never forget. Never forget. We will remember. I also got to contact Olean County since I did file a commercial claim in the county, which his business is registered, for this piece of shit website that they put together. You can find that at rossmangroup.com/web-design-demski-group-dev-Andrew-Demski. Not even really sure. Where did I? Yeah, here we go. So if you go to my main site, you can go About Us, Blog, bam. And it's right there. I think there's something to be said for that in life. You know, you don't have to be, because I think people get this idea that you have to be an 85 or a 90 or a 95 or a 100 student to be successful, but you could actually be a 65 student and be just fine if you're a 65 in a number of different areas. It's even the same thing with stock investing. Like, I'm probably not the best stock investor, but I'm good enough. I beat the S&P by 38% or something for the year of 2017 so far. Beat it by a few points last year as well. What's this here for? If you're good enough at enough different things, then you can kind of combine all those verticals together and get something cool. Okay, so this has light on the charger, but it's dead. Light on charger, but dead. I can't wait to get my overhead cam one of these days. I'm gonna get a wall mount for it. Can I send you a board from New Zealand? No board only. Oh, it must be home machine. No board only. Okay, still doesn't turn on when I unplug the keyboard. So let's take this board out of here and take a look at it. See what it's doing. Yeah, no board only. No. That always ends in a nightmare. We just had somebody break that rule and they sent it back twice and they're like, "How you send me back board that doesn't work and you didn't fix it properly?" And it's like, "Yeah, I fixed it. Yeah, I know. I saw it work here. I saw it pass ASD in my housing. It doesn't work for me." Yep. I believe you. Of course it doesn't work for you because you sent it board only. Happens every time. No. Nope. I want to get a camera I want to get something that comes out of the wall that points down. That's what I'm thinking of. But this is a work in progress, this whole office redo. I would never trust a website quote under $20,000. Well, I've had quite a few websites done in the $500 range. I've had websites done in the $6,000 range. And I would tell you that the difference that you get between the two is surprisingly little difference. Because, you know, I've done that when I couldn't afford a real site. I've done the whole... I actually remember trading somebody a digital to analog converter in beer back in 2008 for the website I had back then. Is the A1708 next? Yeah, I did one touch bar on screen. Do I have to do another? I'd like to limit that to like once a year, maybe. How are the cats doing? Well, they're lovely. Thank you for asking. Lewis spends money to make his office nice. Who are you and what did you do to the real Lewis? Hey, I didn't spend a lot of money. The floor is still not perfectly level. It's not perfectly level. It just doesn't have a hole in it. I haven't achieved what Rick and Morty would call perfect level. Alas. Please straighten the screen. Yeah, not much I can do. Sorry, bro. That's what you get. Okay, we're going to take a look through this board and try to figure out why it doesn't want to turn on. So let's get started, shall we? Is that a $100 bill on the desk by the multimeter? Multimeter? I don't think I have a $100 bill. I'm pretty sure I would have seen that and spent it by now on something. Before we get started on this, though, Are you 21 yet?
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I'm good. This is my board?
That was the one that was in the air filter. How do you like the level floor? The level floor is amazing. This is amazing. 28% alcohol by volume. Amaretto liquor, colored with caramel. Enjoy responsibly. I gotta go to the gym after this, too. This is pretty good. All right, so why is this not turning on? So we have a green light in the charger, but it's dead. So what's the first rail that I can assume is turning on because it has a green light in the charger? Can anybody tell me? Let's see if anybody can tell me. And how dare you blah my liquor choice? How dare you? Okay, get all that stuff on screen. PP3V42. Very good. So PP3V42 is present. I know that I have that power rail. So what do I have to do next if I have no power on my board? Oh, very good. People know what it is. PP bus G3. No, okay, one person got it wrong, but the rest of you got it right. So that's good. Thanks for buying from us. We love your videos, says We Sell Mac. Thank you. Oh, I didn't notice your thing before. It didn't show up on screen. Sorry about that. What did we buy from you? What did we buy from you, Mr. We Sell Mac? Okay. So let's go on to the list of power rails and show you how we'd go about troubleshooting this. So there's going to be a list of power rails in the schematic, and we're going to see which ones are present and which ones are missing. So let's start off with the standard PP bus G3 hot. Remember, when you have a no power fault, you want to check which power rail is the one that's going to be missing. So PP bus G3 hot is going to be located right down here. Now, you can't see the multimeter on screen, but I'm hoping that once my B and K comes here, because the thing cost $170, that unlike that piece of shit $25 tech power that I've sent back to Amazon 3 times, it'll actually work over the USB connection. We'll see. But for now, you'll have to bear with me as I read out the voltages manually. So here we have PP bus G3 hot, and for PP bus Pepe bus. Yeah, let's just edit this. For Pepe bus G3 hot, we have 12.54 volts, which the schematic says 12.8. That's close enough. Now let's check Pepe V RTC G3 hot. For Pepe volts RTC G3 hot, what do we get? If we scroll down here, we'll see that there's two big capacitors, and then right above it, there's these two resistors that are supposed to have it, and there's also a capacitor here for a that looks like it's corroded. So over here, you'll see that this capacitor has seen corrosion before. So what's that capacitor that has seen corrosion before? For C1802. We're going to skip ahead a little bit here in the game. C1802 is a capacitor on the system RTC reset signal, which is pulled up by PPV RTC G3. I mean Pepe V RTC G3 hot. I'm looking for a cheap microscope. Amscope SE400, too expensive in Europe. In that case, I would suggest you just... Like, the SE400 is really the cheapest thing I can recommend. I can't imagine buying something cheaper than that and it being good. So before you get the SE400, just... And wear goggles so that you don't burn your eyes. Essentially, you just put yourself closer to the board. But, of course, you're not holding me responsible for that happening to you, because you totally do that at your own risk. No Twitch stream. Twitch gives me error 500. And it's not worth solving, because 99.9% of my viewers, 99% of the people who click the links, 99% of the people who leave a donation, 99% of the people who comment are coming from the YouTubes. So it looks like we have a voltage that's going up and down very rapidly between 3.4 and 3.2. So I have not made it a priority to solve my Twitch problem. If it worked, it would work. But since it doesn't and requires troubleshooting with the amount of... It's just not something I can do. So it looks like Pepe VRTC G3 hot is going between 3.2 and 3.4 volts. Or at the very least, not that voltage line, but this specific signal on C1802. We trust your readings. Why, thank you. Someone says, take a look at the Zenith STL80. What's that? What Penelope screwdrivers do you use? I should add those to the site. I use Weeha. Weeha. So this Zenith STL80 looks almost identical to the Amscope one. And it seems like you can buy that on a .uk website for £219, which seems actually to cost about the same as the Amscope, really. All right, so let's check the actual Pepe VRTC G3 hot voltage. So where are we going to find Pepe? Pepe VRTC is going to be found over here. And that's also jumping between 3.2 to 3.4 rapidly. So let's take a look on the schematic and figure out where that comes from. But before we figure out where that comes from on the schematic, It's okay that I have liquor next to a motherboard. I won't spill it. I am a professional. I am a consummate professional. Brr. So, if we go back here, we're going to look for the clock chip, which is going to create PPVRTC. RTC stands for real-time clock. Real-time clock. Clock. So this voltage is voltage for the clock signal. So that's going to come from somewhere. Mute? One moment. We have to talk about dastardly things. Okay, so mute. All right, just had to deal with some normal business there for a moment, and that is all done. So now we can get back to the board. You smoke blunts? No, I'm not a fan of smoke. If it works for you, go for it, but I'm not a big smoke fan. So, PPVRTC, well, that's going to come from U2800 or U2600 or something like that. Shit. Yeah, just had it. There we go. U2600. So this chip is going to be fed voltage by PP3V3S5, and let's find that. And this chip is going to get its power on pins 13, 2, and 5. So let's find U2600. U2600 on the board view. So this means we have to flip the board over, and we can see U2600 here on the other side. Now this here is a green jungle. It looks like a fourth wave armpit. Jesus. Oh my God. That is a fourth wave armpit if I've ever seen one. Holy shit. It's green, it's brown, it's dirty, it's got hair everywhere. Oh. Yuck. So, pin 2. That's where we're supposed to be checking first, right? Pin 2, pin 5, pin 13. Let's see if the voltage going into the chip is not steady. On pin 2, I get an ever jumping up and down. 0, 3.2, 0, 3.2, 0, 3.2. That's no good. Pin 5. If we check out pin 5 on this fourth wave armpit, we get 0 to 0.2, 0, 0.2, 0, 0.2. And if we check pin 13, which is going to be down here, we get 3.4, 3.3, 3.3, 3.2, 3.3, 3.2. So the voltage coming out of the chip is unstable, but the voltage coming into the chip that's supposed to create that output voltage is also unstable. Very fourth wave of it. So we're going to try and figure out why that is. So let's just look upstream, where PP3V3S5 sysclock was jumping. So what does PP3S5 sysclock come from? That comes from PP3V3S5. PP3V3S5 is going to come from something, right? Where are you, U7200? From U7200. This is a buck converter. This is going to take spikes of 12 volts up here, and this transistor is going to turn on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, and it's going to turn that 12 volt set of spikes into 3.3 volts of output. Let's see if this is doing its job. This comes out of U7200. Now what's going to enable U7200? U7200 is going to be enabled by what voltage it receives on its enable pin over here, 3v3 reg enable. Also by N-trip. So P3v3S5 N-trip on pin 6. Now, N-trip and enable work a little differently. The way that enable works is if let's say there's a chip and it has an enable pin, and I want that chip to turn on. I will send 3.3 volts to its enable pin, and it will turn on. If I don't send 3.3 volts to that pin, it does not turn on. Now, the way N-trip works is there will always be 3.3 volts present at that pin. The chip naturally has 3.3 volts present at that pin, which means it's always going to be on. And if I want to turn that chip off, then I have to take the voltage away. It's kind of like the difference between opt-in and opt-out. So say an enable pin is kind of like opt-in, that by default you're going to be off unless I send you voltage, whereas N-trip is kind of like opt-out. By default, I will be on unless you take away my voltage. So if we look at the schematic over here, you'll see that this N-trip pin attaches to a transistor that goes to ground. And there is a signal coming into this N-channel MOSFET. This is an N-channel MOSFET, meaning that when the voltage on the gate is equal to or greater than the source, it will allow power to flow. When this signal is present, it will make sure that the N-trip voltage is low. But when it's not, actually, am I correct there? Let's see. When this signal is present, voltage will flow from it. Yeah, so when this signal is not present, N-trip will be high. When this signal is present, N-trip will be low. Because when the signal is present, it'll turn on the transistor. When the transistor is turned on, the N-trip voltage will go to ground. Now, that's why this signal's name is P3V3S5 underscore enable underscore L. The underscore L means that this signal will be present when it's low. When it's 0 volts, I will enable P3V3S5. So let's see what voltage we get on pin 6 of U7201. And I betcha this is going to be pulsing. Now, as you can see, when we go to this area of the board, there is a clear hint that something is wrong. So most of what we're doing here is we're being a detective. We're kind of searching around the board and trying to find what is off and what is wrong. So we go through our power rails page, we go through, we figure out what rails are acting funny. Then we figure out where they come from. Then once we figure out where they come from, we look in those areas and we keep kind of searching. It's like being a detective. You never really know what the answer is until you have it. You never know if the case is going to be solved until you solve it. And here, as you can see, right by my chip that I was about to measure, I may not even bother measuring the thing I'm going to measure because look at this. What is this? What is this? This is right by my chip and it has a hole in it. So maybe there's something wrong with that thing that has a hole in it on screen. So let's look that up on the schematic in the board view. But before we look it up on the schematic in the board view, I think it may be time for a little bit more disaronno. Because this stuff is amazing. Hello. Lewis never turned the board over when connected. Flip the board view instead and stand on the other side of the monitor. You're trying to trick me. I think you're trying to trick me. Oh my god, this board looks like a moldy vagina. Looks fairly fourth wave to me. What does your girl think about you drinking and working? I think it's nice, but no. So healthy, haha, I'd do it too. Funny emoticon. Well, I don't do this very often, and I also have been getting back into my running since my leg finally healed, and at the gym, actually. Drinking enhances performance at the gym to some extent. So, what's this thing over here? Well, this blown thing is a capacitor on PP5E-S3. And PP5E-S3, I would bet my bottle of liquor is created by this chip that's screwing up my PP3V3S5. And what do you know? It is. So if I remove this cap, which is on a rail that this chip is creating, maybe this chip will stop screwing up with the other stuff it's creating. So this chip is responsible for several rails, PP5ES3, PP5ES5, and PP3V3S5. So let's remove that and go from there. Let's wait for my hot air station to heat up. This is the Weller, so that'll be a while. You were right, U7700 wasn't at fault in the H203476 broken trace. Beautiful. I think I remember you. I told you to use your brain in live chat and to think instead of guess. And you did it. I am fucking proud of you, man. I'm proud of you. I am incredibly proud of you. And you did it. Bam. It's rewarding, isn't it? You figured it out on your own. You fucking figured it out. See? This guy was about to buy a chip from me on live chat, and I told him you can buy it, but it's never that chip, so you probably shouldn't. And he fucking figured it out. That's one way that you can see that having a live chat feature on your website actually decreases sales. Because my live chat feature, if it was not present, would have led to a purchase of a chip. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm bad at marketing. And that cap next to it looks like shit too, so we're just going to take away both. Good job, Ryan. Good fucking job. And I bet it feels good too. It feels good to figure it out, doesn't it? Figuring it out feels a lot better than guessing. You figured it out. That's props and credit to you. So, we're now going to add some leaded solder to each of these pads because it'll make it easier to wick up the lead free. That's already there. And I use wick because when I went to iPad Rehab Practical Board Repair School, Jessa taught me that the secret to her phone repairing mastery was that she wicked every pad. And I want to have the skill that Jessa does. So I wick every pad all the time, regardless of what it's for. Because I want to be like Jessa. I wick the pads for the resistor next to the capacitor I want to replace, too. That's how much I like my wicking. We add some flux. Beautiful, beautiful flux. Yes. Now, we're going to grab a board Still has those pieces on them. This donor board I grabbed had the same cap exploded. Wonder if I can fix that, actually. Why are you in the donor pile? You have exploded caps. You also... Why do all my donor boards have exploded caps? These donors are shit.
U7100. You see my note on that?
What?
U7100 one?
I'll look.
Okay.
I'm afraid to look. I'm getting yelled at by somebody. I did something wrong. Lewis, you still stream regular? Not as often. It's hard to get work done when I'm streaming. It's much quicker when I'm not. But I still do want to try and make a regular stream. So I'm gonna put some effort in. So let's get these parts off my donor. Looks like a common issue. When I worked for an ACMT, we replaced these boards all the time. The dark days of working for an ACMP. Excuse me. Things have come a very long way since I was replacing 2-watt carbon resistors using a Weller Jr. Yep, that was a different world. Just connect your security cameras to YouTube and you will always be streaming. No, thank you. So I think now we may have solved our main issue, and I think that was probably our main issue. I think that this chip was shutting itself down from providing PP3v3S5, even though PP3v3S5 had no problem, because the entire chip, since it's responsible for numerous things, noticed the short. It was shutting itself down entirely. That's my guess. That's my guess. So, let's clean that off a little bit. Mainly just allow the board to cool down before we plug it in. Plug it in, plug it in. As the Glade commercial goes. So now we plug the board in, and we get a fan spin. That is a fan spin, which is beautiful. Whoa. Wow. Listen to that fan. Hear it spin. Watch it spin. Get that fucking ad off the screen. What are you advertising your website on my art for? That's better. Fucking ads. Ryan says, I have to be honest. You said, use my brain, and I Googled. Your man Duke deserves the credit for a suggestion to someone else on your forum. I'm glad the forum helped. Let's see, how is the forum doing at the moment? If you have questions, and those questions require answers, you can get them here at rossmangroup.com/boards, where we have a professional engineer that will answer your questions for you. And it's also browsable for free, so you can actually browse through this and search the site, which has thousands upon thousands of MacBook motherboard repair questions answered by engineers. And you can browse through all of these different cases for free. Only $29 a month if you'd like to ask questions. If you have a business doing this and you want to get started, you can check out here. And if you want to get some parts, if you want to buy a hot air station, some flux, some conformal coating, anything you need to help you out in this business, check out our site at store.rossmangroup.com. That's store.rossmangroup.com. You can find chipsets, flux, solder paste, multimeter probes, conformal coating, USB amp meters, iPhone banana plug to battery connectors, hot air station nozzles, SMC stencils, LED drivers, TriStar chips for the iPhone, iPhone LCD connectors, and much, much more. That's it for today. We have fan spin, and as always, I hope that you learned something. That looks so damn cool. That looks awesome. So I'm gonna get going since I finished my stack for the day. I'm gonna go to the gym, and when I'm done, perhaps finish a little bit more of that Disaronno. And this time tomorrow, I may be streaming from a table that's actually straight. So I got this nice. For a lot of you have been complaining that the microscope shakes on stream, and it really does. Like even if I move or I step kind of hard, it does. So I got this new table from Home Depot. Let me see if I can show you what I got. So hopefully that straightens out the microscope for the streams. I got to pick this up with Paul tomorrow. Let's see, Husky 8-foot solid workbench. This thing over here. This is going to be cool. I hope that this is better than the piece of shit do-it-yourself table that I have now. I got this thing. This looks sexy. So with any luck, this thing will allow me to have a much more stable microscope. So I got the stable microscope stand, and tomorrow, once I pick this up, I will have the stable microscope table. And who knows? Maybe I could do more. So, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all who took part in the giveaway, everybody who gave a donation, everybody who bought something, and hey, I'll see you tomorrow.